Hello creatives, I'm Ari, this is Shamelessly Creative, and today we have the Sketchbox. So let's just get to it, open it up. The cover artwork is by Denise Wolverton at DL Wolverton. Let's see what's inside. This is awesome. I've been wanting to try some of the fluid watercolor paper. Never tried it. Don't know if it's good, bad. So awesome that we got some paper this time. I'm loving that. Sketchbox, if you're watching this, thanks for including paper. I hope you do it more often. It's really appreciated. So we have the fluid paper, 4x6, retail price of $7.61. Cold press watercolor paper. The ink will lift more easily from the surface than when using tree-based paper, so you have more control. And this is 100% cotton paper. So I'm really excited about trying this. You can see it's a light textured paper. Excited that they include paper this month. It's Tom Norton Walnut Drawing Ink. Retail price $10.49. Again, here they show the one I have. A little bit larger is shown on here. So whether this is the same price as this or they just couldn't get enough of these, I don't know. But 10 milliliters different. So if some people got this and some people got the other one, there's a little bit of difference. So it says, this is our first time shipping walnut ink and we could not be more excited about it. While the word walnut might imply that it contains actual walnuts, due to their acidity, it has a negative effect on the ability not to fade over time. Tom Norton Walnut Drawing Ink is made with artist-grade pigments, not walnuts. And it's both light fast and acid-free. And due to some COVID-19 related supply issues, you may notice a different shaped bottle than the one pictured here. So there you go. I don't know if they adjusted for that, but you're getting 10 milliliters less ink than they originally were planning. So it is what it is because of the way the world is right now, but frustrating if I was paying for that extra 10 milliliters and I didn't get it. But very interesting that this is a pigment-based walnut ink. I also have the Daniel Smith, and so maybe I'll do a little comparison back and forth with that just so you can see the difference for yourself. And we'll find out a little bit more about Daniel Smith as well. We have the Faber Castell Pitt Artist Pen Set in Dark Sepia. The retail price of $13.25. So this does say it's a brush. So super fine, medium, and brush. It's pigmented Indian ink, pairs really well with the walnut ink. We have the Copic Chow Carbide Cocoa, retail price $5.49. This is a staff favorite. We have our 3 Cretacolor Artist Pencil Set, retail price $7.75. Highly pigmented pencils for increased light fastness. They're perfect for traditional sketching, drawing, smudging, and mixing. Retail price $7.75. We have the Tombow Mono Drawing Pen, 0.5 millimeters. Retail price is $2.89. Dependable fine liner from our favorite brand. We also have a silver brush, silver white round 4. Retail price $6.40. This versatile round brush keeps a needle point, which is great when working with the walnut ink. We have our July artwork, again by Nikolai Shaver. We have our July Sketchbox 2020 with a theme of walnut ink. And we've got all sorts of pens to play with. This is going to be a fun box. It's right up my alley. Remember, with this box, check it out because it really is very close most months what you're getting for the lower price versus the higher price box. Having a subscription, you can definitely lower the price per month by having a 6 to 12 month subscription with this. And that's what I've chosen to do because I really like the Illustrator style of this box. It is less crafty, more focused. This box is curated specifically for a brown illustration. All brown colors with some white for highlighting and some black for some deep darks. And it's all, well, we'll see if it all worked together, but it's curated a little more closely on a theme. Everybody gets the same colors with Sketchbox, and I appreciate that. I'm excited to get swatching this, so let's go get swatching and then get creative. All right, I'm going to swatch on my swatch booklet. So I won't be able to tell you much about this paper until I do a painting, but I'll be doing the painting on this. I just kind of feel like I don't want to waste this because it's a nice pack of 15 sheets and it's better quality paper than this. But let's get these swatched out so you can at least see how they go on paper. So this is our black chalk. You're not going to see that. Oops, and mine broke. There you go. And of course, on this paper, it's going to bleed through. That is just the nature of Copic markers. Just a little bit of smearing. So we have the brush. Again, I don't necessarily consider this a brush. I mean, I guess it has some flex. Medium nib with a fine nib. Then we have this super fine nib. Okay, I'm gonna go in, just put a wash of pigment down. Right, there's our little sampling. Well, let's go get creative with these supplies. They're so far a lot of fun. using our Walnut Drawing Ink from Tom Norton, and just no sketch, just sketching with the ink itself. I really kind of enjoyed that one. Again, my hair and ears need work, and even proportions when not drawing out I have to work on a little bit. I was able to do a few corrections, but not bad. I didn't use everything in the box. I used the Copic, the two brown and white Creative Color, and the brush Faber Castell. So a little of everything except for the mono. Again, this was for the July Sketchbox Premium Box. Hello creatives, today we're taking a look at brown ink. This was kind of inspired by the July Sketchbox. I'm either going to make it a separate video or include it with the July Sketchbox. I've been thinking about including brown ink in my Inktober, and so over the last since Inktober last year, I've been kind of collecting brown inks. So I thought if you really enjoyed the July Sketchbox, that maybe you want to see the difference between some of the other brands out there. So I thought I'd show you what I have on hand. So let's get started with a little brown ink swatching, and I'll tell you what I know about these colors. So let's get started with our swatching. There's just something so kind of nostalgic about brown ink, especially on cream paper, which I didn't have on hand. We're going to start with the walnut ink that arrived in our Sketchbox, if you get that. If not, maybe you've just been looking at the Norton ink. And I'm going to do 2 swatches so we can do some lifting. Now, one thing I found, this is the Tom Norton Walnut Ink. They also have a walnut darkening medium. It's a pigment-based ink. The Tom Norton Walnut Drawing Ink is made with artist-grade pigments, not walnuts, so it's both light fast and acid-free. This one, it'll be interesting to see because it says watercolorists really love this brown ink because it has layering and lifting properties. So my guess with this one is that it's not permanent once dry, and that may be a plus or a minus for what you want to do with ink. It's great for calligraphy to use with both dip and fountain pens. It remains water soluble even when dried, so it washes out of your nibs. So Norton says you can use it in your fountain pens. So if that's important to you, maybe this is one to go with. The other ones, I believe, do not recommend using in fountain pens, just with either a glass dip pen or a brush pen, like the water brush pens. You can put ink in them. So they're not supposed to fade over time. It's a pigment-based ink. None of these could I find out what pigment they used for these, so, but just that they're pigment, not dye-based, and the pigment makes them more light fast, but not necessarily excellent light fastness, as in the case with our second contender, which is the Rohrer and Kilngner ink. It has a 3-star rating, and it's much more opaque than some of the others. I have very shallow spoons that I'm using for the ink. So with these you want to be able to dip them so that the ink can go into all those little ridges, but because I'm using shallow pans today, that's not happening. And I am cleaning my brush between colors. Alright, so our first one was Walnut, Tom Norton Walnut Ink. Our second one, the bottle looks like this. The Umbra from Rohrer and Kilngner, Burnt Umber, 760. Our third is Dr. P.H. Martin Bombay Van Dyke Brown. And our fourth is Daniel Smith Walnut Ink. And I do have a fifth, which is Kiowa Pecan Noodlers, because I have it on hand. And then I have these comparisons. So a little bit about P.H. Martin. They're pigmented India inks. So again, pigment, not dye-based. So better light fastness. This one is more of a red-brown. So that not only are they light, fast, and permanent, but also are waterproof when dry. So now the P.H. Martin may be one you want to go with if you want whatever you're making to be waterproof for calligraphy and other things. So we're going to test that. These can be diluted with water. These can be used with brushes and traditional watercolor techniques or in dip pens, technical drawing pens, and airbrushes. It does not mention fountain pens again. So just note that none of these are really saying, so Tom Norton is the only one that is saying that you can use their ink in a fountain pen. And our fourth container is another pigmented Daniel Smith. This ink is not waterproof. This one is more of a yellow or orange tint to it. I did a side-by-side comparison. This is the Tom Norton, this is the Daniel Smith, very similar in looks. Let's just go in first with some water. As you can see, we can lift that one pretty well. All right, our first go, this is a Tom Norton. It lifted really quickly. The Rohrer and Kilngner did not lift at all. The Dr. P.H. Martin did not lift at all. Daniel Smith definitely lifted, and the Noodler's Pecan lifted and lightened. So all to varying degrees. So now another thing, if you watched my art haul video, I bought some of these watercolor lifting sponges. Aqualift. I am not 100% sure if they're just repurposed magic erasers, but let's just have a go on this side with the lift eraser. So I can lift up a good chunk of that. So even the non-lifting ones, I don't speak too soon, can lift up a little bit with the magic sponge or the Aqualift sponge. All right, so Tom Norton almost lifted all of the hello, but not quite. All right, so Rohrer and Kilngner, or Dr. P.H. Martin. Rohrer and Kilngner is the permanent umber, and Dr. P.H. Martin is the Van Dyke brown. Lifting ability here, and lifting ability with the Daniel Smith, as well as the Noodler's Kiowa Pecan ink from JULY Pens is where I got that sample. The Kiowa Pecan kind of turns this orange yellow color. So there's a yellow undertone to that. So almost, and all of them lifted at least to some extent with the Aqualift eraser. So that's something you may or may not want to try. I've heard that magic erasers work just the same. I just don't know what is in a magic eraser, if it's different than these, that I would trust it on something that I was going to put for sale. This will lift unwanted pencil marks, brush strokes, even dirt and grime. May be used for all watercolor and graphite and using on cotton paper. So this is not cotton paper. This is a B paper sketchbook, mixed media. So I just thought it would be fun and different to kind of include a highlight of some of the other brown inks. Just to give you an idea, if this box was inspiring to you, what and what you're looking for. If you want it more like a watercolor, then definitely stay with the Tom Norton or even the Daniel Smith. If you're wanting something more permanent when you put it down and it dries, then go with P.H. Martin or Rohrer Kilngner. This definitely, you don't want to be getting it wet unless you like that orange halo, and that's what you're going for. But also know it's a calligraphy ink, and if you're using that for calligraphy, again, if the paper gets wet for some reason with tears or water, you're going to have some weird color change. But I just thought I'd include it because it was just a brown ink I had on hand. I think it's the only brown calligraphy ink I own, so, and I do not believe it is light fast. I don't have enough information on that Noodler's. One other thing, some fine liners here. And I just want to show you the color difference. Copic multi-liner in Sepia. We have the dark Sepia and the Faber Castell. All right, so here's a close-up. We have the Stabilo, the Uni Pin, the Micron, a more red Micron, the Faber Castell, and the Copic. So the Copic is going to be really good to use if you're using the Copic markers, because you're not going to have the smearing. These four are waterproof and fade resistant. This is light fast. But if you like doing line work or you want to add some brown line work to your artwork that you've made with your inks, those may be the best choices. The Faber Castell is the one we had in this box. Stabilo I can't speak to. I want to say that they're dye-based, but I really like the brown color. So the sepia seems more like a burnt sienna to me than a brown. It's more orange. And when I looked at this Micron, it seemed like it was a brown, but it is actually their burgundy color. Let's do a little water testing and then I will tell you which one I probably would go with. Now, except for the Stabilo, all of these have been sitting for probably an hour. So maybe this one just needs a little bit more time. On the second row, let's see how it lifts with the lift eraser. I think for most of the outlining work, I would go with the Faber Castell or the Uni Pin. Where is it? Uni Pin. Water and fade proof. And this also doesn't, it's by the Mitsubishi Pencil Company. When I was shopping, I really did not care for the sepia in the Copic or the Micron. That's not the brown I'm going for. It's too orange red. It's more burnt sienna than a sepia or an umber. And when I'm doing outlining on brown work, I really want the Faber Castell brown or Stabilo brown, but that one seemed to have some problems with water. And because I work with watercolor and will be using brown inks for Inktober, I think I will go with either, I will probably be using the Uni Pin and the Faber Castell, which is sad because I really do like my Microns, but it's just not the brown I'm looking for. And maybe they have another brown now, but that was the only one. Right after Inktober, I bought a lot of these brown pens, and actually I didn't realize that so now I have 2 sets of the Faber Castell Pitt pens because I actually purchased one a while ago. So I thought they were new to me, but they are not. I was waiting for a time to test my brown inks and products, and this presented itself, and I thought it's a good get ready for Inktober kind of thing. I also want to know, so the Norton dried pretty firmly. The Rohrer and Kilngner is mostly dry, but still liquid. As the PH Martin it's thickened and sort of dried, but Daniel Smith has stayed more like water. So this one's a little bit more usable. So after an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of just sitting open to the air, because I did the painting today using the Norton, so there was less in here as it dried. But the 2 middle ones may not easily go back in their jar, where this one will easily pour back in. And I just wanted to note that for you. Then as far as what I'm looking for the inks, definitely I am really happy with my Rohrer and Kilngner R&K purchase. This is a permanent, though it lifted with the Aqua Lift. This is probably going to be, if I want a more permanent brown, I like the color and I like the permanency. And I think I'm a little more drawn to the Tom Norton that was included in our sketchbox, more so than the Daniel Smith. This lifted better, so if I'm wanting a watercolor brown, I think this is the one I'm going for, more than the Daniel Smith. But that one was just as nice. The one that did not really impress me was the Dr. P.H. Martin, and only because it's permanent, but it has this reddish hue, and I hope that's coming across on camera. I don't really go for a lot of browns in my watercolors, so I usually make my own. So I don't know if that's a real representation of what Van Dyke Brown is. However, but if it is, it's not something that I find appealing. It's not what I consider a nice brown. It's just more red than I would like. And of course, this Noodler's does not react well with water, and so I would not use that for art or anything that could possibly get wet. So I think I'm most happy with the Tom Norton and the Rohrer and Kilngner permanent. And I think those will be the 2 I go with if I'm going to go with brown inks for Inktober. I like the dark I can get with the Rohrer and Kilngner. Personally, the way the Dr. P.H. Martin gets dark. I will be interested in finding out more about the walnut darkening medium, because if that can give me some of my darker darks, it was really nice to have the Pitt pens for this artwork to add in some of the darker lines, but it would be nice if I was just doing a painting and didn't want to use any markers to just be able to do 2 tones of the walnut and walnut darkening medium. Really love this box. Again, SKETCHBOX has been my go-to. I only did a little artwork, but between now and Inktober, expect to see some more. I really want to play with these supplies. They're right up there with my tinted graphite, watercolors, and inks. Again, some of my favorite supplies. I think it's really hard to explain why this box seems to be a perfect fit for me, and I wish I could explain that better because it really has supplies that I will use and use again. So let's take a moment. We'll remove everything that so these, we had our set of 4 Pitt pens. We had our mono, our set of 3 pencils, our chow, and our walnut ink. Here's a swatching from the pencils. At the end there's a video of me just doing a portrait with the pencils, just to give those a fair try because I feel like I did in my little sample here. But here's a comparison with the Tom Norton being at the top. Definitely lifts more like a watercolor than an ink. If you're looking for a more permanent, once you place it down and it dries, and you like the deep brown color, the Rohrer and Kilngner Umber 760 is going to be one of my go-tos for a permanent ink. P.H. Martin is more on the red side. Daniel Smith, just right on par with Tom Norton. I can't say that I prefer one over the other. Though this didn't lift quite as easily as Tom Norton. So that could be either good or bad. Oh, and we had the silver brush, silver white brush. Yeah, so Tom Norton lifts so much easier. So we almost get some white back. So if you're looking for a high lift drawing ink, I would go with Tom Norton. If you're looking for, you still want some of the color, go with Daniel Smith. If you want no lift, go with the Rohrer and Kilngner, or P.H. Martin if that's a brown that you're happy with. The Van Dyke brown is what I used here. So this is what we had, the Fluid 100 cold press finish. I loved seeing paper, a whole pad of paper in this box. If every month they included this size of paper, I would be so thrilled. They would move definitely way, they're already right up there for me, but not having just some sample paper or a paper pad, I think this wouldn't possibly just fit in that box. They have a weird size box for paper, but just sample papers like these Stonehenge, or I think 5x7 fit in there. I would love if every month we had some paper with the supply that will work well with the supplies. This isn't my first time trying the Fluid cold press finish 100% cotton paper. It worked really well with this ink. I will have to try it with some of my watercolors to see how I feel about it, but I really enjoyed it. It was a nice paper surface. It feels more like a hot press, I think, and maybe it's just because it's on the block. The supplies in this box were just perfect. Perfect for me. This brown ink is so my style. This is definitely something I enjoy making art with. This is something I will return to again and again. If you have similar tastes in art that I do, you're liking watercolors and inks and pencils, Sketchbox, it's one of the higher priced boxes, but I would take this box over a Smart Art box. I would take this box over a Palettefull pad, because obviously I had all of those. Well, I didn't have Smart Art. It just, to me, $50 for a art box is just too expensive for not knowing what supplies you're going to get. But $35 straight up for this one is the higher end box, but I feel like I get my value because I'm going to use almost all these supplies. But as I said, I haven't really given these a solid try because I didn't use much on this portrait, so I'm going to try another portrait and see if I can change my opinion. So again, research any box if you haven't decided on SKETCHBOX and you're watching this to find out if it's something for you. Go to the getsketchbox.com/school and really look through the boxes and think about how many of those supplies would you use again. It's great to just make a one-off art each month with your box, but it's even better if the box can fit into your regular routine of supplies and be something you reach for again and again. I really like the look of brown inks, and I definitely will be playing with all of these more. This portrait I only did with the walnut ink. I did not use any of the other supplies I had, just what came in the box. I used very little of the pencil, but I did use the Copic and the Faber Castell. I also did not use the mono. The brush was nice. It was nothing, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And it was the only thing I used to paint this portrait with. All in all, a really great box. And I hope just the added information was a little different than maybe another video you've seen, because if you do like this, it's really good to know what brown you're going for fine liners, what brown you want for inks, and if you want permanent or lifting inks. Or if you're going after any of these for calligraphy. I think I would go, even for calligraphy, I would go with the Rohrer and Kilngner. Again, this is their Zeichentusche. I wish my husband was up here. He's German, so he could pronounce. I think it's a drawing ink. I think Zeichen means drawing. Zeichen. I don't know. But this is the umber that I demonstrated. They also have a sepia, but that just seemed off. I mean, not off, but just this seemed more, the umber seemed more the brown I wanted to go with. So this gave me a good opportunity to test out my supplies for myself, as well as anybody that is interested. It was definitely another home run for SKETCHBOX. I'm really excited to see what comes next month. I'm really loving this box, and if I had to go with one box, it definitely would be SKETCHBOX. So I hope you enjoyed today's content. We kind of got creative with brown inks, and this was good for my research and trying to figure out what I want to use going forward. As I said, I'm really happy with the Tom Norton and the Rohrer Kilngner. Those will be my go-to. We got creative with the July 2020 SKETCHBOX, and I had a lot of fun with this box, and I personally learned a lot about how these inks work and what I'm looking for. Oh, that's another note. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but Dr. P.H. Martin also has a sheen in the thicker parts, where the Rohrer and Kilngner is a nice matte finish. So that's something else you may want to think about. I have a full color set of both, and I will do some further comparisons in the coming month or two before we get to Inktober, so you can see the difference between those two. But Heikela uses the Rohrer and Kilngner inks for many of her paintings. She does not usually use watercolor, and I can see why. And I was thinking, well, here in the United States we have the P.H. Martin. Why wouldn't I just go with that? You know, like our supplies here should be just as good, but, and I can't answer that with one swatch of each. But I will do a follow-up video and show you a little bit more in depth about those inks and the differences. So if you're interested in inks, or you have the Doc Martens and you want to see the difference and how some of the colors compare to Rohrer and Kilngner, I will be working on that. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Ari, and this is Shamelessly Creative, and we got creative with the July 2020 Sketchbox. Be well, stay well. Bye. All right, I just practiced with the Cretacolor pencil. I mean, they seem to work okay. The white doesn't seem to put down enough white. It seems more of like a blender. Just a little extra footage. So we'll try to demonstrate all the supplies in the box.